Greetings from Oceania, so that's Micronesia, Polynesia, and Melanesia. Welcome to the Far Cute podcast, where we invite guests to talk about various access to equities within the context of Aotearoa and their lived experience in an effort to identify common threads within support systems, social networks, and knowledge that uplifts the collective human experience. What's our season 1 question, Kelsey?
It is, what does equity and support look like for various communities coexisting within one society?
And today, we've actually done a really good job of not assuming and claiming titles over our guests, so we're going to carry on in that fashion. So finish the sentence. I am...
Me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great start.
Would you like my name?
Yes.
Kia ora, ko Patricia Gleason toku ingoa.
Mm-hmm. And your pronouns?
I am she.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So tell us in terms of how are you? How are you today?
Today I'm feeling pretty good. It's a beautiful day outside. I live in the beautiful seaside town of Whainoroa, Raglan. And yeah, I started my day with a run on the beach with the dog. Well, after some coffee in bed, and it was a beautiful Saturday, just hanging out.
Sounds lovely, apart from the run.
Little bit of a bummer coming into Hamilton.
But you got to see us.
For you two, anything.
Yay. Love you.
All right. And then so tell us the different communities within or community that you either belong to, used to belong to, still belong to, and time's not a hindrance.
Oh, see, I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I've been struggling with it all week, trying to think about what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with the most recent community that I have felt a part of. And really, I should say it's one of the few communities I've ever felt a part of, and that's actually my neighborhood. So I live on a no exit road, and during lockdown, there are a couple batches, but the last sort of 4 or 5 houses, so 3 couples and myself, just became really close and really tight during lockdown with weekly gatherings out on the verge, and we've carried that on, since then. So we get together at least once a month for a potluck dinner, for whatever, just hang out. Really look out for each other. It's been lovely for me because my family is all overseas, and I am single and in Aotearoa alone, me and the dog and the cat and the chickens. So it's just been great to have kind of a little surrogate family, and my immediate next door neighbors. And takes that role quite seriously and tells everyone that she is my surrogate mother, and they need to watch out. So I recently started dating someone, and she said, "Bring him over. We need to vet him." And boy, have they. But that's the role she's playing. So, that sense of community has been really, really lovely. We are a very diverse group of 7 people. We've got pastors, we've got atheists, and we've got everything in between among the group. And we can sit and talk and have a korero about everything really respectfully. And it's been really cool. And I love spending time with them. And every time we get together, something different happens. The last dinner we had 2 weeks ago, it turned into I almost said the name of my road, but it turned into to the Road Musical Ensemble, because we've got 2 music teachers in the mix. And so she came downstairs with all of these, instruments and things, and we all just sat around playing instruments and singing. And it's pretty cool.
That's so cool. Blowing away over there.
No, because I just feel like it changes the whole... Well, it changes my perspective on what neighborhoods are, because coming from the islands, that's that's the fundamental, that's a given. Yeah. And then coming from there to here, I've never experienced that personally in New Zealand. So to hear that happened during COVID, which is such a complexity. Yeah. What do you reckon is the recipe to that, or what are some of the ingredients that assist with that apart from COVID?
I think we're all just pretty cool people.
Hey, come on, claim that, claim that.
No, I mean, in our own way, we are on the surface, we are all Pakeha looking people, but deep down, different nationalities, different mixes, different ethnicities thrown in there, very different views on life and what's important in life. But fundamentally, that sense of personal responsibility about what we do and the impact that we have in our short time on this planet is a common thread among us. And I think that really helped. What I started to appreciate a couple weeks into lockdown was that I realized, as the only single person among the group, they were all making sure that someone was checking in on me every day to make sure that somebody had at least seen me and waved to me and that I was okay.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, I sometimes laugh and internally have a little bit of a struggle because one dinner a couple months ago, there had been a little bit of alcoholic beverage consumed by that point in the evening. I had two of the moms sort of like, oh, you need to just text me every day in case something happens, because they know I do a lot of landscaping and DIY at my place and they want to make sure I'm okay. I was like, dude, I'm a grown adult and I'm single for a reason and I don't need a mother checking in on me every day. I appreciate that. Monday through Friday, if one of my coworkers does not hear from me within 2 days, like the bells will be raised. But I appreciated that. And so she's my immediate next door neighbor has joked around with me and she says, I do keep an eye on your curtains, that they're open and closing every day. I was like, okay, stalker, but cool. Because it does. It gives me a real sense of unity and security that there are people around me that actually care. And that's just incredible in this day and age to have that from your neighbors.
I'm still at I can't believe that that's such a, I guess, have you experienced anything like that with any other of your neighbors in the past?
Growing up, but I mean, that was 40 years ago, and very different time and very different place. I think I've been a little bit of a nomad and have moved around the world and lived different continents, different countries. And so it's been hard to develop some of those relationships. One of the I lived over in Rotorua for a few years, and we joke around and call it the commune, because it was a lifestyle block with a couple of houses on it. And so the people that I lived with there, not at all hippies, but very much had that communal way of living and feeling. And all of us would have different friends come and stay, and everyone was always welcome. I have not lived with them in over 10 years. And some of us, we all live in different places now, but we all connect still as a whānau and as a family from those couple of years living together, which is cool.
So how important is connection for you then?
Oh, Joseph.
Here we go.
Here we go. It's important. And I probably, if I'm honest and own it, don't have enough in my life. I think that the nomadic lifestyle is both a literal and a metaphoric thing of, because I've moved around, it's that little bit of self-protection of not getting too close and forming connections, and then you leave and have to go through all that sadness and of departure and whatnot. I don't really have any excuse for it now, but those behaviors are a little bit ingrained. And, one of my personal strengths is in forming connections. If you've ever done the Gallup stuff, woo is one of mine. That's winning others over. And other strengths profiles. I do that just because of the type of job that I do. So I know a lot about myself, a lot of self-awareness, and I am curious about people, and I am an extrovert. So that's where I get my energy. I am one of those people that I walk into a room of people that I don't know and I get excited. Cool. Who are these people? I can't wait to meet them, but I will meet them and then I will move on. And that's my own doing. So it's, I am probably quite careful as to who I let my guard down with. And that is a double-edged sword, I think.
100%. Talking about extrovertedness, Kelsey, how do you feel about a room full of of people you don't know?
I want to run away.
She just stands behind me. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've done that before. I just attach myself to someone that I know. I'm like, hi, friend. I'm just going to be right here with you. You don't have to talk to me. It's fine. Just be with me. That's cool. I'm okay with that. But if no one else is there that I know, then I'll just leave. It terrifies me.
That just boggles my mind.
Do you see like where I come from?
How
Like
are you two friends?
that's literally everyone's question. Is like, why? How are you two? And I'm like, look, opposites attract.
Yeah. But like if Joseph and I are hanging out and we go into a room of strangers, I'll just like,
Yeah.
I'll just be with Joe.
Well, that's it, because Joe and I know that. Like, we're he's my brother from another mother on the other side of the planet.
Legit.
Yeah.
Legit. I don't know if you know this, but you're a massive mirror for me. Like,
So you look good when you look in the mirror.
that
Looks
too.
like this 5'10" brunette. Size 10.
This body, these eyebrows, this face, everything. Okay, but no, I it was weird because I didn't know what mirrors were when I met you, and I didn't know what empathic powers were when I met you. But in the journey since I've met you, I'm like, oh my gosh. This woman exposing me. She knows me. And I'm like, no, she will need to sign an NDA ASAP because she knows too much. And I don't know how she knows that. But actually, I feel like yeah. And see, that's one of those things where I'm like, it's really great to be seen and super scary.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
So so how tell me what makes your powers? Because I'm like, it's beautiful to me, but at the same time super scary. Yeah. But you also support as well. Like, so it's like you don't just mirror, you mirror and support, which is a different vibe. I'm letting you know that I've seen mirrors out there and they just mirror and they leave me to deal with it, and you actually support, which is like, I'm like, yeah, the last time I felt this type of love was like from my own family, which you are a part of. But they give me the arguments, the critique, and the follow up, and I'm like, is that too hard to ask from society?
No, that Afi is the really important part of it. Of why be the mirror if you're not going to be there to walk with them through what they need to go through. Oh, don't cry now, Joseph. Here's a tissue.
No, you're right. And then so I guess, have you learned that was your or that was one of your superpowers, or how did that come out for you?
I'm not comfortable with the superpower thing. Because if that truly were a superpower, then I'd be really good at doing it for myself, and I suck. I'm really good at doing it with other people. But when the tables are turned and it's me, I'm twice as old as you, and I still go through that on a daily basis. Of it's wonderful to be seen, and it's amazing, and it feels so liberating and vindicating of who I am as a person, but it scares the crap out of me at the same time. So for certain types of people, and I think you and I are both that type. I don't know what that type actually means or is, but that is a scary thing, because that being seen opens you up for rejection. And that's a scary place to go. Yeah, that vulnerability of, okay, if they see me, are they still gonna like me?
Yeah, I think that can translate into lots of different contexts as well. Like, I know within the queer community, it's like once you do finally accept yourself for yourself, then that's an acceptance process that you have to go through as a person. Yep. And then also when you start telling people, not that you should have to tell anybody, but once you start telling people, you're really opening yourself up for vulnerability and the opportunity for someone to say, no, I don't accept you for that. Even though you were like that the whole time and they just weren't aware, like that new information apparently changes their whole perception of you. And I think that can be in the queer community, it can be with mental illness, it can be with so many.
I'm so glad you said mental illness, because in my head I feel like that's one of those big, like, stigma in general is heavy when people are ignorant about that issue. And to me, I feel like everyone's always on a I don't know, so I actually don't know how to support.
Well, I don't know, I'm not willing to try.
But it's also recognizing it. So I'm shooting daggers at Joseph at the moment because he knows that there's been an incident in my life that I've been toying. Do I share this? Do I not? And how do I share it if I do? But I after the split of a long-term relationship last year, I struggled with my own mental well-being for a while, and I found myself needing to be around people that I had let my guard down with because I didn't have to say anything. They could see me on days that I needed support and help, and they could see me on days where I was okay. And I just felt them near me. And that's what I needed, but I needed to do that and made some changes in my work environment and where I sat and, sitting with people that weren't necessarily my direct team, but that knew me because I needed that safety and that security blanket around me. Because of course I wasn't going to ask for help and say I needed it because I'm really good at putting these barriers up. And that's when I talked earlier about that double-edged sword. That was one of those times where that came back to bite me of people didn't see it and didn't see the struggle I was going through internally because I'm so good at masking it. And I needed to get to a point to own that and realize, God, I'm just making myself worse and I'm not doing myself any favors by pretending I'm okay when I'm not.
So did you jump in from that? How did you decide to be like, okay, I'm going to start being vulnerable?
I don't know that it was a conscious decision. I think it just happened because I couldn't keep my SHIT together
say it, it's
anymore,
fine.
When you're trying to adult, and balance home life and work life and friendships and all these other stuff that you're involved in. Yeah. At a point, if you are struggling with your mental well-being, something falls apart and something just, and I kind of reached that point where I just had to trust that, these couple of people that I had kind of reached out to were there for me. And they proved that they were on a daily basis, which was awesome. And they gave me what I needed when I needed it and never inserted themselves in my life or in my process without my permission and my consent of, yes, please come for a walk with me right now because I need to get the heck out of here. I'm not okay at this moment. And one of them, so this was a coworker, and she knows through the nature of the work that I do that I'm very familiar with our staff benefits and that we've got an employee assistance program and all of this. And I have used that in the past, and it was just, I was at a space, and there was one day she just walked over to me and she had put something on my desk and had her hand over it, and she said, "Now, I know you're completely aware of this, and I'm just going to leave something on your desk and you do with it whatever you need to do." And she just slid me an EAP card. And she walked away, but that was for me a beautiful moment because I'm like, here's this person that I don't know that well, but sees me every day. And today she sees I'm not okay. And she just wanted to reach out and say, I see you and I see how you are right now. And if you don't want me, here's something else that you could do instead. And that was just beautiful. I'm so uplifting.
Stop.
I think really... that's a really beautiful thing to be able to do for someone because it's recognizing that they are not okay. But it's not trying to be that savior person that I think a lot of people try to be. And it's not it's actually not helpful and it's self-serving.
Yep.
So, the fact that she could see that and recognize it and then also have the self-awareness that actually this is not my place, but still be supportive in another way, I think is actually I don't see that happen very often.
Yeah. And that's, and certainly the role that I have, I see that in a lot of staff in my organization. They've got best of intentions, but they're stepping over professional boundaries left, right, and center, trying to do the right thing, but it is so dangerous and they're putting themselves in a position of causing more harm.
Yeah.
For short-term gain, right?
Yeah.
For self-satisfaction rather than for actually supporting and helping that person.
Sometimes, not always.
And so I guess what I'm hearing is that and correct me if I'm wrong or if my thought process is not on the same level as yours, but I'm hearing that for strong people, we don't know how to recognize that they're human still. If people have in your team rely on you to be the strength, to be this person, and then when you're not that person but can still keep up, it's like people don't know how to deal with that. And is that like in your perspective, is that your acting skills or is that a lack of support for strength? Or a mixture of both?
That's a really interesting question, and I think it's probably, to be fair, a mixture of both. I need to own my part in that, of people not necessarily seeing me because I tried my best to not allow them to see it.
Wait, can you just pause there for a second? Because I feel like that's massive to admit.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, it takes me ages before I admit that I added to that problem.
Yeah. Oh, it took me months to get over my whole self-pity and woe is me and like they don't see me and they don't care about me and so I'm just going to leave and they all suck. To reach that point of
thank
like...
goodness, because in my head I'm like, you're so calm and collected. I'm like, I don't do that well.
Well, I do a lot of coaching and so I just had to turn those strengths and those skills around and kind of, work myself through a process that I would have done with somebody else and hold myself accountable for my contribution to the situation that I created. And I 1000% believe if I had spoken out and said anything to any member of that team, they would have been there 1,000,000% to support me and help me with whatever I needed. But I kept my shit to myself to my own detriment. Go me.
Yeah. And do you reckon,
independent woman.
but do you reckon there's an element of like, holding face to that? Like, you don't want to share because you're trying to hold face.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's maintaining that professionalism, of this is who I am and I am together. And, my job is actually in supporting all of you people and I can do that.
I don't need support.
I don't need well, but it's that irony of for anybody else, I would be the first one there. Reach out for help. What can we do for you? What do you need? How do we get you the support? And I'd be trying to work with people around, Kelsey, how are you doing? And what have you done for yourself? And trying to work with anybody around recognizing what they're going through and that it's okay to be vulnerable and to need help and get support. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. Yes.
I felt that one.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, it's so much easier when it's out there and it's somebody else. It's very hard to deal with your own stuff and acknowledge your own shortcomings.
What was kind of the turning point for you where you could start to recognize that you had contributed to the situation? Because I think that realization is really hard to come by for a lot of people.
Like I said, I've done a lot of education and training in coaching and mentoring. So, the theory was there. A lot of the practical skills were there. Not necessarily a good idea to try to only work with yourself through something, but that's essentially what I did because it was where I felt comfortable. But I was only able to reach that point when there are probably two contributing factors of one, a teammate who'd been off on parental leave came back. So my work burden kind of lightened a bit, which was huge for me. But it was also a little bit of an epiphany in the personal stuff that I was going through of, I was stressing a lot about things that I had no control over. So it was that moment of, okay, worst case scenario. Let's plan for that. Let's put things in place of if this is what happens, and it was financial stuff and whatever. And okay, worst case, this is, you go to the bank, you have the conversation. Yep, I can get a bigger mortgage. I can do all this stuff. And once I did that, I was 10 steps down the road to recovery because the worry was gone and it was pointless, stupid. There's nothing you can do about it, worry of when it's outside of your control.
Yeah.
And that it just cracks me up because that's what one of the main things I talk to people and I work with people around is around their sphere of influence. And you can only control what you can control and what you are in charge of. And, this other stuff isn't worth worrying about because you can't control that. Where's that mirror when I needed it?
Boy, cold out.
Right. Those ones. Control then. Oh, speak to us about control.
I need to go now.
Unsubscribe. No, because I feel like that's something that because I the first time I uttered the words stress as a decision,
Yes.
That was
Ooh.
profound.
Yeah.
Like I actually had to learn that by saying that out loud.
Yeah.
And I
I've
feel
never
like
heard that before.
stress is a choice.
Yeah.
There's a recipe and ingredients that add to that decision, and people choose like. Please take this in with a grain of salt, and I don't care. Well, actually, I do care about which situation you're in, but I don't want you to take it out of context because this is within context to my experiences and my worldview. But from my lived experience, stress is a choice because there's ingredients and these recipes that you take up to that point where it's like, oh, I'm gonna be stressed about this scenario, and I feel like that analogy coexists with or really connects with control.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the jobs that I have had in the past, I mean, I sat there and I had a little bulletin board over my computer, and I had, one of those little sheets of paper with some mantras on there, and one of them that I had highlighted that because of the nature of the team environment I was working in, I would take a lot of deep breaths and just say it over and over and over to myself every single day for several years. And it was you control your reaction to any situation. You're in charge, and so something happens, but that's the thing that happened. Your response to that, you are 100% in control of. And yeah, you can choose to be, oh my God, I'm so stressed and this is worrying me. Or like, oh, okay, that wasn't expected. That's maybe not an ideal thing that I wanted to happen, but what can I do about that now? What's next? How else might I respond to this?
And I think we normalize being stressed, or they're like, oh, you're just stressed. And it's like we're so comfortable in being like, and normalizing conversations around stress where it's like we don't actually understand that that's a choice.
Yeah.
And that's from my experience. Like I didn't understand that it was a choice. I always thought that it's all of these people's things fault, and then at the end of the day I'm like the equals me being stressed instead of me being a part of the equation.
And I think that also goes hand in hand with the like being busy thing. Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so stressed. I was like, actually, poor time management skills there, mate. Also, don't
What's
make
important,
me feel
what's urgent.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
Who is this important and urgent for? Me or you?
And you agreed to take on that project and that project and have a full-time job as
And
well.
didn't say no to this thing when you said yes to that one.
Yeah.
And those are skills around, ownership and control and being able to be your own advocate of, if your boss comes to you and, oh, here's this other thing. This happens to me quite regularly, but my boss is fully comfortable and expecting that I will then say, cool, if this is the top priority, then how about this other thing that last week was my priority? What do you want me to do about that? And, have that conversation of they can't both be urgent and be done at the same time.
Right.
Make your choice. Happy to do whichever one you want.
And you can turn that on yourself as well.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, I really need to eat today, so maybe I'll cook now, but cook enough that I don't have to cook again later. And then I can go do this other thing and just take the guy with me. Hey.
But I also think a lot of that turns, you need to turn internally again and actually understand who you are as a person, what your values are, and I've done that work. So I know.
Is that like, are you saying that you already done that work, or is that a continuous?
Oh, it's a continuous thing, but fundamentally, my core personal value, it aligns with the strength, is personal responsibility. I spent almost 20 years in the biodiversity conservation field. I'm an environmentalist, a little bit of a sellout now because I have a 45-kilometer commute to work, driving a car. But it's thinking about my role as a human being on this planet and what am I contributing? What am I exposing? What am I taking away without giving back to? And that translates to every element of my life because that's who I am and that's what's important to me. But I had to get to the point to learn that about myself to be able to cut other people some slack who don't share that value and that strength.
Honestly, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how to cut people slack for that. And I know like it's weird because I know the recipe as to why I need to cut them slack. And at the same time, I let myself down by choosing the low-hanging fruit of judging.
See, again, choice.
That is a choice. That
I could
was a
learn
choice.
something from this, or I could just go into judgmental mode.
Low-hanging fruit. But yeah, I definitely have just clicked onto that right now. what is, or describe your why to us, or your purpose, and have you discovered that? Are you in the process of discovering your why and your purpose? Because I feel like you talked about just that we have a short time on earth, and then your community with the neighborhood, they also have this like a similar whakaaro to that. So I guess, what is your purpose and why for being in this short amount of time on earth? And have you discovered that, or are you in that space?
Boy, this is a light Saturday afternoon chat, eh?
We're just in the ocean, just on the deep end.
Good thing I know how to swim.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's been, for me, that's the whole point of my life, is figuring that and contributing and trying, sounds cliche because a lot of people put it out there, but it is. It's doing what I can in the time, however long that is, to make a difference and to make the world a better place in some way, shape, or form. When I left the environmental field and I came into education, and I made a swap within education, and it's really all about how can I try to contribute and make people's lives better, easier, empower them with knowledge, skills, whatever, so that they can impact learners. And, it's where is that domino effect, and how can I be one of those dominoes that helps contribute to something bigger down the road?
Well, you've definitely been a domino for me.
Go there, tell us.
The thing that always sticks in my mind, and the thing that I always think of when I think of you, like the phrase that you've taught me, that like comes
my
up
words
the
come back to
most
bite me.
is intention versus impact.
Stop.
'Cause
You,
that has-
you bitch, you knew that was mine.
I say that a lot.
Because but like
Yeah.
it actually changes the way that I interact, not only like at mahi, but like in like friendships and relationships and like all these different spaces and places in my life. I'm like, okay, if I say this, my intention is this, but understanding this person, the impact it might have on that person is really different and may not align with my intention. So maybe I need to change the way that I'm going to try and deliver that message to a way that will have less, or like my desired impact on that person, rather than just leaving it up to like, oh, but that was my intention. Too bad if it doesn't land for you.
That's in a conversation that I had with Kelsey and some others when I used that phrase, and several people that were a part of that have thrown those words back at me at one point or another, which is fun, and I love that. Sorry, I just forgot where I was going to go with that for a second. I'm like, wait, what was that? There was wisdom to come out of there somewhere. Yeah, don't know. Lost my train of thought.
It's coming. But
It'll come back.
colleagues throwing them back at you, that intentions versus impact.
Yeah, I shouldn't have made a snarky joke. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your problem.
The choices. That's
bloody
the choices.
sarcasm will get you every time.
No, yeah, but I think for me as well, that made me realize that I was a part of the problem. Like, I think I've never, I don't know if this is maybe the society that I grew up in and the privileges that I have of being a male and doing all of these other things, and the way that my community supported me. I never thought of myself as the problem, which is actually the problem. And I think for so long, I was so conditioned at just being like, people were praising me for being the best me that I could be, and I was like, oh, I'm not the problem, I'm the solution. And in my head, I'm like,
That would have been a rude awakening.
that was, and it still is, and I feel like that's where I'm kind of jumping into your space of being like, has your opinion on intention versus impact changed over the years? Has it evolved? Have you kind of pushed it in the deep end? So what does intention versus impact mean to you in 2020?
Yes, it's evolved over time because, I was where Kelsey was at one point in time when the first time I read that or somebody said it to me or called me out, kind of like, yeah, that actually would be awesome to never have to say, oh, that's not what I meant. Like, how beautiful would that be to live the rest of my life without having to say those words?
Low-hanging fruit, dear. Low-hanging fruit, dear.
And for me, I really appreciate the Korero that you have with me, Joe and Kelsey, both of you. And, I am constantly trying to knock myself off of this pedestal I think you've put me on because I don't belong on one.
You there for us. You don't even know. You there.
For all of us, it's a constant journey. And, you as soon as you learn something and you think, yeah, I got this, like something happened, you're like, oh, crap, I don't know anything. But to me, that's the beauty of life. And you just keep learning. And as long as you're open to that growth and the development, and, there are things that I see now that to me are really clear that, I did not see 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago even. And so it's about being open to changing your perspectives and ways of seeing things, ways of thinking.
I'm just going to be really frank right now with you. I think the reason why I put you on a pedestal is because you're not fucking boring and you're not fucking fake.
Fair point.
With me. Like, yeah. I've never felt like you've looked at me as someone who needs help or someone who you're just like, kind of like a mirror. It's exposing as fuck. And I'm like, shit. I can't go anywhere. And my usual antics that I can distract people with does not work on her. And I'm pissed off. I'm like, fuck, now I have to be authentic. But in saying that, I think it's so different to speak to an adult that actually has an ear and a kindness and a heart to actually give back. Because I feel like some adults learn that and then just keep on moving forward. And in my head, I'm like, this intergenerational succession of your learned lessons is nowhere to be found because we're just kind of struggling. And I'm like, look, if we're turning to Instagram memes and Facebook posts for like moral support,
and it's also like more than just like, it'll be fine. You'll be fine. It'll be a better day tomorrow. I'm like, fuck off with that bullshit. Like, if I wanted some of that like stupid surface level advice, I'd go to Instagram or Pinterest or like surface level bullshit.
Yeah. But we love Instagram, but it just has content. Like I feel like Instagram is about was missing context. I feel like they've got the content, it's just missing the context. And I'm like, everyone's just kind of using it to the advantage of being like, oh, I'm in this season. This quote really matters to me. And I'm like, I don't know the context to it. So I've tried not to judge based, because trust me when I say I've found myself judging my friends being like, oh, why are you posting this up when you... And I'm like, why am I investing time in that? Why do I think my important opinion of not knowing their context either and why they posted it, but I have the absolute authority to be like, oh my gosh.
About authority, by the way.
Yeah.
But to be fair, you've also made the decision to engage in Instagram and social media.
Stop and go there. Wait, congratulations, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to commit to how many hours a day of a time suck for no purpose, no greater good. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry about that.
There's my judgmentalness coming out. Like, go live your life. Get off the phone. Go talk to people. So last year when you went off social media, I was very proud of you, which sounds condescending, but it was awesome because I actually got to see you a lot more because you were out living.
You'll find me next to trees nowadays.
Like legit, like hugging a tree.
My kind of boy.
I'm like, can I just morph? One of my friends was like, can I just be buried in dirt for the next 6 months? And I'm like, I would actually love that. I don't know how that would look like or what that actually means. And I don't know if you're meaning metaphorically or not, but I feel like I would join you in that. And that literally was like, in a way, I'm like, now whenever I'm being critical, I'm like, is that escapism? Am I trying to, and then you know the patterns of reflecting, being like, what am I trying to escape from? Am I running from something? Do I want
feeling right now? What's behind this?
And yeah, I think the paralysis through analysis. Yeah. I'm best friends with that now. Like, well, sometimes it's a choice, but sometimes I'm like, I'm too critical and it gets to a point where I'm like, there's no reason why I'm being critical about this.
It's about finding that comfort zone to be yourself and be comfortable with being yourself. And actually, for me, it's around surrounding myself with people who aren't just a mirror in front of me. They actually push me into a house of mirrors. Because we've all got blind spots, and the people that you do let your guard down with will see those blind spots and educate you about what they are in a loving and supportive way. And you need that because, we've all got them. And those spots we are blind to them, and they're perfectly obvious to those around us that know us. And so, when you say, "Oh, you're my mirror," I'm like, "No, actually, I'm the mirror behind you." Like the ones off on the side, letting you see the whole thing, not just the one that's in front, showing you the pretty face.
Beautiful. Because that links in with the whakaro that we had from Michael about just witnessing different perspectives, and I feel like you're so on point there. Our blind spots and perspectives.
Well, and it's getting back to that whole willingness to grow and see things from another point of view. It's recognizing that how we think and how we respond is based on our lived experience. And everybody's lived experience is different. And so it's going to give them a different point of view. And we've got to be open to exploring that and understanding that. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just different.
How do you think we can support people to move out of their own perspective?
How did you do it?
Yeah. Because I think it's really easy to say, oh, but like walk in somebody else's shoes, blah, 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 blah. But like if people don't actually know how to do that, how, like, other than through media, I guess, like through film or whatever. Do you have any ideas?
Looking at me so well, I'm like, this is what I charge for.
Free therapy.
No, not therapy. I think my approach just tends to be out of curiosity. And if you're able to demonstrate your curiosity for understanding someone else's, how they see things, and, by engaging in active listening and questioning around that, tell me more. So what is it that makes you think that way? When on the inside, so many flags and bells and things might be going off, like, oh my God, how am I even friends with this person? I did not ever know this about them. You've got to learn to just quiet that within yourself to really honestly and openly engage with somebody else to understand them. And sometimes that just feeling validated that I have this opinion helps move the dialogue forward and enables them to actually engage then with you about how you see things a little bit different. When I was talking earlier about my neighbors, there was one dinner that we had that we went very far down the religion and God route. And like I say, among the group of 7, we have a pastor and we have an atheist and we have everything in between. And so, there was a very long, based on one question to the gentleman pastor around, because he was not always a Christian and he did not start out that way. And so it was, a genuine question from our host of, what made you make the switch? Like, how did you become a Christian? And whoa, like just the can of worms at that. But having the respect of the room that we listened to him and we gave him that space, he was then able to engage in a conversation around evolution where previously he hadn't been open to that. And so, it's around that psychological safety of sharing. And, that comes from the whanaungatanga and the relationship that you build with people to feel safe to speak my truth, regardless of whether you're going to agree with me or not.
I feel like I'm always, and I don't know if I've said this out in public, but I'm a slut for a good story. Like, I'm a slut for a good, deep conversation. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. And then when we're trying to build whakawhanaungatanga, I feel like there's people where you could just go there without, it's like, in my head, I'm like,
totally agree.
We can just skip the whakawhanaungatanga because it's like, boom.
We'll just jump straight in.
And then there's other people where I'm like, oh, okay, this process is going to take 4 weeks.
Or years.
5.
And I think that's also a point where through that whakawhanaungatanga process, you can kind of like get to know who you can kind of let your guard down with and who you maybe need to be a little bit more
reserved.
Yeah.
And that's going back to what we were talking about before we started recording was the space when I was not mentally well and who I opened up with and who I didn't and how I made that decision. And perhaps it was a quick judgment, but you do get it. Like, you reach a point and you got to trust your instinct. and you know, are knowledgeable bukus of, okay, nope, I don't get a sense that this is somebody that I can trust right now. So I'm not going to go there with them. Whereas this one over here, yeah, I'll give it all. Here you go. It's all out on the table. And it's welcomed and it's safe. And I think as human beings, we do develop that skill to hopefully, I haven't always had that skill. And I've shared inappropriate, you know, with the wrong, it's not inappropriate to share and try to build trust, but, you know, wasn't the right person or the right time with that person. And you get hurt.
And I think it's
The wall gets even bigger and stronger.
Yeah, and I think it's actually okay to say, no, I don't feel safe to share that with you.
Yep.
And people who are on the receiving end of that also need to give that person grace and be like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, I don't have to be that for everybody. Yeah.
And that's the key, because that's the only bit that you can control. You can't control if I share this with you. What you can control is that grace with which you engage with me. And I do think that as human beings, that's where we tend to fall down, because we want to be seen as that person that people can turn to and share with. And when we're not, and when we're explicitly told that we're not, that's, you know, it's a blow to our ego.
Yeah. I think,
And we all know that blow, just a little blow to the ego is like, all right, I need 4 weeks of mental health.
For some, Joe.
True.
those that are fragile.
Connected. All right. So, what are some topics that are in the far queue for you that you would like to bring to the front? Well, topics
I'm sitting here whispering, I don't know.
It could be anything. It could be like
topics that you feel like society needs to normalize or are not talking about, or
Stop talking about American bloody politics and that baboon.
See, this is the funny part, is the whole way through, I feel like I've never had that curiosity to ask you, especially because that one story you told me of being like, I don't know why people keep on asking me about Donald Trump. And I'm like, yeah, why would they ask you about that?
yeah.
Topics. I don't know.
It could be anything, like from your lived experience of like having walls or like
Mental health. Mental wealth.
Oh, that's new.
What constitutes mental wealth?
See, to me, mental, like, because
You're gonna throw phrases like that out there. You got to have a response.
Oh no, for sure. So for me, because I'm deconstructing and dismantling a lot of my perceived truths around what mental health is. To me, I'm trying to explore what mental wealth looks like without the conditioning structures that actually try to teach me about what mental health is. Because to me, I feel like it was really surface level of being like, you're healthy and happy when you're eating the right foods and you're doing that. And I'm like, all of those things are good as well. But I think what it taught me was that if I tick box this and this and still felt like shit, I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You need some Western medication.
Well, that as well. Yeah. But in my way, I feel like mental wealth is such a subjective topic. But for me specifically, I feel like it's just diving deeper into self and understanding how self operates within different like spaces and places. Yeah. And if you don't I guess going off what you were saying about diving into self, I think I discovered this year or last year that I'm actually more intelligent than I thought I was. And understanding that has helped me and made me feel so much more, I'd say, anxious, because I think someone with a strong, courageous heart that exists in current conditionings, I'm an overcarer. Like, I overinvest and overcare about everything that I want to put my investments into. So I don't plan for when people are going to exploit that.
So if it's something that you want to put your emphasis in, how is it over caring and over investing?
Oh, no. So for me, I feel like I say that to try and explain it to everyone else, that that's what it looks like when I'm loving and caring. But to me, it's just normal.
Exploit that. Give me their name. I'll go take care of them.
You know. But yes, so I guess in a way, going back to the to the original question, is there any topics that you would like to be out, like, well, more you'd want to hear more information around, given your current curiosities in life?
I don't know how to phrase it or frame it, but Korero that I think I would like to hear more of is just around how we stop making assumptions about people. And becoming a little bit more aware of that. So ties into unconscious bias, but it's not just that. It's actually explicit bias as well of I see this person and so I immediately think this or pigeonhole them in this way or another. And that's really dangerous and it's not fair to people. And it doesn't actually provide an opportunity for authentic engagement.
And is that tied into projecting as well?
Possibly. Tell me more what you mean.
Like, because I think, like, relying on my own intelligence, I go into different meetings and hui's, and I'm like, oh, snap, this person's really projecting their own lived experience and assuming that that's normal for everyone. And then telling like, hey, we shouldn't be approaching this issue or this topic or this area like this because from my lived experience, this is what happened. And I'm like, but how will that happen again? You know, if we've got a new team, new people, new fresh and a new idea, new innovative way to tackle the problem, I don't understand that. And like for me, I'm starting to hear that with the people that are around me as well, where I'm like, oh no, that was you. That was you. That had nothing to do with me. But then, and it's tying back to what I was saying before. I don't know how to give people the grace when I can hear that they're projecting. And I think what I do then is just be silent and tap out. I'm like, oh.
Whereas you know me well enough where that's when I dig in. So tell me more about that, your perspective. How do you know? Quite regularly, you know, there are tools that I use in my coaching world that I try to expose people to, and it is around just everything is actually about raising your own self-awareness of how did I draw this conclusion? What facts did I base that on? Where's the evidence to support that? Okay, so here's my pool of 10 facts and I chose this one thing. And based on this thing that happened to me 10 years ago that was kind of similar, that's what I did then. So this is what I'm going to do now. You know, like that's human behavior and we do that and we have to learn to recognize it and break that cycle. And it's, you know, it is the same thing with unconscious bias and it's just becoming aware of it and bias is fine and telling people that that's how the brain works and it's okay because your brain is looking for shortcuts all the time and that's bias. Boom. But it's the stopping and checking sometimes of why do I think that? What makes me think that way about this person or this situation? And just learning to slow the hell down a little bit about our thought process.
Yeah. Someone who came through, sorry, I don't remember who you are, said that the first thought is our conditioned thought and then our second thought is our actual thought. So like when something happens, your initial thought is what we've been conditioned by society to think. But then if we just wait that little bit longer for that second thought to come through, it's actually it's how we're perceiving it. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Like for some people, third, fourth, fifth, seventh.
Yeah.
Depending on
still waiting for that thought to come.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to count my personalities and then count their conditionings and then catch me.
See, how can we reframe that? It's one personality with beautiful different points of view.
Yeah.
And I'm at that phase of trying to discover who she is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what her name is. I don't know what it is. But everyone's been like, who is this? Well, two people by everyone. Two people. Everybody. Two people have said, there's this queendom. There's this queen. And I'm like this.
Queen Patricia's got a good ring to it.
Impact, deadly.
Whoa.
Off with your head, off with your head, off with your head.
Agreed.
No, okay. So last question for you.
Make it an easy one.
What makes Patricia happy?
Oh, jeepers. It doesn't take much.
Give us the ingredients, top 5.
beautiful sunny day, my dog swimming and running on the beach, my cat beating my dog up.
Wait, yes, this just doesn't.
Never stops to crack me up. Music. And yeah, like wonderful people who are willing to engage and have a lovely, genuine korero.
That's us.
Love you.
And she's like, no, it's not
Save
you
the
guys.
best for last. I'm gonna go see them now.
Oh, rude. Fair point.
All right, and if people wanted to plug in with you because they relate with your Talanoa, how can they reach you?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, perfect. And it's just your name.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have that at the bottom, as well as you can follow us on the Fuck You podcast
On Instagram.
on Instagram.
On that Insta thing.
Oh yeah, and Facebook. Sorry, we're on Facebook family as well. Fuck You. We're just the Fuck You on Facebook. So
Yeah.
catch us on that as well. And yes, can you help us outro? The fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. The fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you, everyone.
See you later.
Have a Uranus day.
Joe.
I know you can cut it.
I'm not.